My name is Christy Nance, and I am the Policy Director here at Oral Health Kansas. This is our Friday noon call series. We hold these calls every other week throughout legislative session, and so we took a break while legislators were taking a break in April, so this is our first one back, and we are happy to have you all on the call today with us. These calls are really designed to be an opportunity to provide legislative updates, a little bit of advocacy education, and then just an opportunity if you guys have questions that we can answer those for you as well. So today's call, we will talk about dental reimbursement rates, Medicaid expansion, and how to use legislative calendars. So dental reimbursement rates, I have talked about this on some of our previous calls, but just in case you weren't able to be on those calls or listen to the recordings, Oral Health Kansas has worked closely with the Kansas Dental Association this year to advocate for increased dental reimbursement rates for those dentists enrolled in our Medicaid program. We were successful in getting a slight increase in those rates. Currently in the proposed 2020 budget, there is an increase in $3 million for Medicaid dental reimbursement rates. We had advocated for about 10 to 12 million, so this is a little bit less than we were hoping for, but we were really excited to just have some interest in oral health in our legislature this year. And that is in the proposed budget, so that has not been passed, but we do believe that it will be included in that budget when it does pass, but we will keep you all in the loop as that happens. It has passed through the conference committee and is now just awaiting that final approval by the full legislature. So Oral Health Kansas plans to track the number of dentists enrolled in CanCare to show the impact the increase has on our provider network. So we're going to take the numbers from what they looked like in January before the increase and see how maybe in like 6 months to 9 months, see how that increase has impacted our provider network. We will also be working with healthcare finance to implement additional funds for specific procedures. So we want to make sure that the procedures that Medicaid patients are seeking are having a higher reimbursement rate so that dentists are more likely to enroll in Medicaid and serve that population. With it being a lower rate increase than we were hoping for, we do plan on having to advocate again next year for another increase, but we're excited to have some data that we can use after this increase to show that there is that need for additional funding. Moving to Medicaid expansion, some of you may have heard about this already, but the Senate voted on Wednesday morning to try and pull the Medicaid expansion bill out of the Senate Public Health and Welfare Committee and to the Senate floor. It had previously passed the House and was kind of stuck in the Public Health Committee on the Senate side, just due to leadership on the Senate side preventing it from getting out of that committee. They voted and they needed 24 votes and they fell short by 1. They got 23 votes instead. So unfortunately, they were unable to vote on Medicaid expansion or even debate it on the Senate floor. The bright side is that this shows that there is enough votes that if it does reach a vote on the Senate floor, they need 21 votes. And so we have, excuse me, we have 24 votes. So that is good news. So hopefully, you know, there'll be some additional political maneuvers in the remainder of the session and we can get Medicaid expansion passed. But as for right now, we're not seeing a whole lot of movement around it. And then I wanted to go in just to show you guys, since there aren't a lot of committee meetings right now, I wanted to show you kind of how to keep track of what maybe the legislature is working on right now on the Senate and House floor. So this is the Kansas Legislature website. If you go to, well, first I'll show, you can see the House and Senate status. You can see that the House is recessed until noon, whereas the Senate is currently in session right now. And if you want to listen to those, you can find that through audio, video, State House Live and Archive if you want to listen to what they're talking about. But to show you the calendars, you click on calendars up here. And so this is the calendar for what the House is working on today. And then the Senate has a similar one as well. I'm going to show you one from March because it has just a lot more information on it because they are nearing the end of session. There's not quite as much information on the ones right now. I'll scroll to the top here. Okay. So this just kind of walks through, it's like their agenda for the day when they are in session. It walks through, you know, they do roll call, they do Pledge of Allegiance, just kind of these regular type things. And then you will see messages from the governor. Some of these they do every time. Some of these, you know, they skip over. So I'll scroll down. If you ever have a resolution, so like you can do them for, like we did one for National Children's Dental Health Month. You can do them for like National Public Health Week. If you have a resolution, that will be one of the first things they do. And then if you scroll down, the consent calendar, that is just, they might have bills that they approve all at the same time. So sometimes there's like 2 bills in there, more bills as well. These are final action bills. So those will be bills that they have already had debate on. So for example, for Medicaid expansion, the House debated it one day, and then the next day it was in this final action right here. So those are all bills that they had final action on, a final vote. We'll keep scrolling. All right, so these are bills under consideration to concur or non-concur. And so this means that they are House bills that have passed the full House and they went to the Senate and were amended by the Senate. And so they passed there in the Senate and came back. And so this is reconsidering those bills in the House to make sure that they agree with the amendments that the Senate made. So after they pass on this bills under consideration to concur or non-concur, that is usually when that bill has passed through both sides and is ready to go to the governor's desk. General orders is one that we try to keep an eye on. This is kind of out of everything that's on here, we usually keep a closer eye on. These are bills that they are planning to debate that day. And there is actually a line, let's scroll down to it. So this line right here shows above that is the bills that they will most likely be debating that day or maybe the next day if they don't get to it. But the bills below that, they will not touch in session that day. So if you have a bill of interest and you see it above the line, that might be a day that you want to listen to the debate on the floor. So this specific calendar is kind of overwhelming just because they were on the floor a lot the week that this was, and so there were a lot of extra bills on there. I'm scrolling to the bottom to show you that they also include committee agendas on this. So usually, like I said, this was a week they were on the floor a lot, but usually they'll have every day of the week right here with what bills they might be debating that day, if they're accepting testimony for them, things like that will be right on there. And this is something that they update every day, this calendar. It's always on the website. So hopefully that was helpful. It's kind of overwhelming, but really just kind of looking at the general orders is where we keep an eye on. And you're not going to be interested in every bill that's on here. So if you happen to know the bill number, you can just control find and find your bill on there and see where it's at. And then the other thing that I wanted to show you guys just briefly, it's another way to keep up to date on what's happening in the legislature. And you guys may have heard about this before, but a lot of advocates and legislators utilize this hashtag. It's hashtag KSLEG. And if you type that in, you'll get all of these updates on just what's happening right now in the legislature. And so it's a great way to kind of know, like, if you know that maybe Medicaid expansion is a really hot topic right now, and maybe there's stuff going on at the Capitol, but you can't be there, this is a good way to know what's going on. So, for example, there are a lot of tweets right now about Medicaid expansion and what advocates are doing at the Capitol right now around it. And so this is just a great way to kind of feel like you're in touch with what's happening at the Capitol without being able to be there. All right, so those were kind of the topics that I wanted to cover today. Does anyone have any questions? I know that was a lot of information and some heavy things to look at. Do we have any questions? You can either unmute your line, or you can put a question in the chat box as well. All right, well, I don't want to keep everyone if there are no questions, but I will just add that if you think of anything after we get off the call that you might have questions about, you can email me. My email is right there on the screen. It's cnance@oralhealthkansas.org, and feel free to email me anytime. Our next call will be May 17th if session is still going on. So I hope you all have a great weekend and a great afternoon. Thanks for joining.